Good Monday morning. Thanks so much for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. Let's get to your headlines. Americans and U.S. markets are preparing for more tariff turmoil after the next round of levies took effect over the weekend. President Trump's Treasury Secretary telling NBC News workers ready to retire aren't worried about day-to-day market fluctuations. Democrats slamming that response as 401ks plunge. The president is back in Washington today after protesters rallied from coast to coast against his policies. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. President Trump is standing firmly behind his tariff strategy, comparing the market sell-off to the effects of taking a dose of medicine he believes will ultimately strengthen the economy. This morning, markets bracing for what could be another wild week on Wall Street as investors grapple with President Trump's new tariffs.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger.
A minimum 10% tariff kicked in over the weekend against trading partners across the globe, set to rise even more on Wednesday for dozens of countries. The White House says more than 50 have now reached out about lowering trade barriers.
They're dying to make a deal, but I said we're not going to have deficits with your country.
The Treasury Secretary pushing back against recession fears and added anxiety for Americans who want to retire, seeing their savings plunge.
I think don't look at the day-to-day fluctuations of what's happening.
Democrats reject that, slamming the president's response.
People have seen their retirement savings on fire, and there he is out on the golf course.
Nationwide, hands-off protests over the weekend rallied against Trump administration policies, including the growing immigration crackdown, as the White House faces a deadline today to return a man wrongly deported to a notorious El Salvador prison. Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a husband and father with no criminal conviction, was granted legal status in the U.S. in 2019. A federal judge saying his detention appears wholly lawless. The Trump administration says he's affiliated with the MS-13 gang, though the Justice Department's own lawyer acknowledged the absence of evidence in court. Attorney General Pam Bondi now placing that lawyer on administrative leave. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was headed to the White House today to talk tariff relief and the reignited war in Gaza amid new criticism over the Israeli military's killing of 15 rescue workers and its now disputed account. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, happening right now in St. Paul, a man is recovering after being shot outside a bar. Police say it happened around 12:45 this morning outside Cheers Pub on Hudson Road. Investigators were on scene for more than 5 hours collecting evidence. Police say the man was shot in the arm and the leg. He was rushed to the hospital and is expected to be okay. Police also tell us they searched the area and found a woman hiding in the garage of a home that wasn't hers. They took her into custody, but they say it's unclear if she was involved in the shooting. And as soon as today, we could learn why ICE arrested a University of Minnesota graduate student from Turkey. This happened just over a week ago while he was on his way to class. On Friday, a judge denied a request filed by the Trump administration asking for more time to explain why the detention was legal. Dahukin Ganaydin was convicted of drunk driving in 2023, but his lawyer argues that doesn't make him deportable. Ganaydin was set to earn his MBA from the Carlson School next year. The U.S. South cannot catch a break. A new video this morning shows more horrific flooding, this time in Mobile, Alabama. You can see entire neighborhoods here underwater after torrential rain pushed rivers and streams from their banks. Right now, officials are telling everyone there to stay off the roads until the water goes. That's because even shallow water can be dangerous in cars. And in Kentucky, drone video shows just how big this flooding threat is. You can see here most of this neighborhood completely submerged in water from a nearby river. Some cities across the South and Midwest say they have seen their river waters rise some 5 feet in just 24 hours, and that water is expected to keep on rising. At least 21 people have died from these nasty storms that have been pummeling the South and Midwest for a week. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is in western Texas this morning, where in the last 24 hours, officials confirmed a second child has died of measles. The 8-year-old girl died Thursday in a hospital in Lubbock. Officials say she wasn't vaccinated and didn't have any other underlying conditions. Kennedy attended her funeral yesterday and said he was there to comfort her family. Right now, a state panel is recommending a man be freed after the Attorney General's office said he was wrongly convicted of murder. Brian Pippitt spent the last 26 years in prison, but his release is not a done deal just yet. KARE 11 Investigates Lauren Lemanchek was at the clemency hearing last week and explains why.
This is crime scene video obtained by KARE 11 from the 1998 murder of Evelyn Malin, the 84-year-old beaten to death in her rural convenience store. Brian Pippitt would be convicted of her murder and sentenced to life behind bars, but always maintaining his innocence.
That I did not commit this crime, for which I have now served 26 years.
He did so again today as he asked the Clemency Review Commission to commute his sentence.
I was not there when she was murdered. I had no involvement whatsoever.
Last year, a bombshell report from the Attorney General's Conviction Review Unit agreed, finding Pippitt should be exonerated for the crime. Why? 2 key witnesses, the only thing placing Pippitt at the scene, had recanted, and the review unit's experts found the murder couldn't have happened the way prosecutors said. For instance, police believed the killers entered through this basement window, but there were no blood or clothing fibers found on the jagged frame. Look what happens in this BCA recreation obtained by KARE. A man, much smaller than Brian Pippitt, struggles and gets caught. And while prosecutors said the murderers were drunk and trying to steal beer and cigarettes, crime scene video shows nothing was taken.
Not a single fingerprint, not a hair, no DNA, no footprints. There were footprints all over the place, none of them theirs.
Despite the AG's findings, the Aitkin County attorney has fought Pippitt's release, and law enforcement maintains he's guilty. In a written statement today, Evelyn Malin's family also said Pippitt should remain imprisoned.
I feel that Brian Pippitt should remain incarcerated to serve out the sentence that was imposed in 2001.
Pippitt is fighting for his innocence in court, but that could take years. In a 6-1 vote, these commissioners said he should be freed while he fights.
We don't have to find Mr. Pippitt innocent, but I believe there is incredibly compelling evidence that he is. And for that, I'm so sorry.
The only no vote on the commission came from John Harrington. He's the former BCA commissioner. The next step is for the case to go to the Board of Pardons, where Governor Walz, AG Keith Ellison, and Chief Justice Natalie Hudson will decide whether to commute Pippitt's sentence and release him from prison. They meet later this year. Pope Francis made his first public appearance since leaving the hospital 2 weeks ago. The 88-year-old pontiff greeted crowds at the Vatican yesterday and seemed to be in good spirits. He was seated in a wheelchair and appeared to have oxygen tubes in his nose. His voice was still weak, but stronger than it was 2 weeks ago. The appearance had not been previously announced. Pope Francis was hospitalized for 5 weeks while he was being treated for pneumonia. When he was discharged last month, doctors said he'd need to recuperate for at least 2 months. The Mayday Cafe in Minneapolis is back open this morning after they say a car accidentally drove into the side of their building last week.
Knocked this big counter thing over and everything went flying, soup everywhere, plates broken. It was kind of crazy.
Since Wednesday, the neighborhood hangout and worker-owned co-op says they've been taking the time to assess damage, donate as much food as they can, and do a hard reset.
This is a place where everyone comes to see everyone they know. To see people like at the door and not be able to come in, it's like heartbreaking. And so I'm just really glad that we'll be able to not have our doors closed anymore.
The cafe closed temporarily this past winter and had just reopened in February. 5 co-owners recently bought the cafe from the previous owner after a year-long fundraising campaign. If you fly Delta, listen up. Starting tomorrow, bags must be checked 45 minutes before most domestic departures. Right now, Delta's website lists a minimum check-in at 30 minutes before departure, with 40 to 60-minute exceptions in certain cities. Tributes pouring this morning in honor of renowned wildlife photographer Jim Brandenburg, who passed away Saturday. Brandenburg, a Minnesotan, most recently won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Geographic in 2023, a very prestigious honor that only 5 others have achieved. His photography graced the covers of the magazine numerous times. KARE 11 featured him as well. In a post on Facebook, his family shared he died after battling a rare form of cancer the last several months. He was 79 years old. Do stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.